we'll go ahead and get started. And just to let everybody know, this is being recorded and transcribed.
Is it just us and Sally now? There's just 5 of us?
Yes, ma'am.
And we have room for 1 or 2 more?
We have room for 2 more, and
Okay.
that's kind of one of the later agenda items for this evening.
Okay.
First item that we've got, and a little bit of housekeeping, is approving the minutes. And I had sent out an email last week asking everybody to review those and for this meeting. Everybody do their homework?
Yes, and they're very nice minutes.
I move that we approve them as submitted.
And do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. We have a motion that's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And unanimous action? The second invoice, or the second agenda item that I have on there, and it's in bold letters, we need to decide to do some action on invoicing, as now that we have funding, and there's all sorts of hoops and wickets and rules that they want us to follow about spending the town's money. And it comes down to invoice approval. There's, the way it was described to me, that there's a couple of options. One, if we take no action, it would require basically a motion from the committee and unanimous approval to approve any invoices. And for those of you with more experience dealing with town invoices and stuff like that, stop me at any time if I'm incorrect. The other way is we can decide who on the committee is going to be signatories and has authority to sign off on those invoices.
I'd be happy to do that. I handle the invoices for the DPW anyway, so.
That's great.
Yeah.
I do for the library trustees, and I don't even understand the invoices for this, so.
So
Totally.
Just for my own education, enlighten me a little more on how the process works, because we get an invoice. What are the next steps, and what are the procedures that we need to follow?
Well, I think the simplest thing is probably just so that everybody's aware of what's going on as we, I hate to approve them just at meetings. Maybe we'll do something. Maybe we could do something by mail. But the problem is that if we just do them at meetings, or if something comes in the day after we meet, it's going to be 30 to 45 days before the vendor gets it. But essentially, once the invoice has been approved in some way for funding, one of us, and I've offered to do this, would prepare a voucher and submit that to the finance director, Kenny Costa. And I usually do that. We do that on either Thursday or Friday, depending upon what Kenny has asked us to do. So I submit invoices for the DPW every week.
Okay. Are most accounts set up with the town on like a net 30 basis? Net 15, net 30, net 45 basis?
Most accounts are set up on a net 30 basis.
Okay.
And there's a handful of accounts that will charge interest after that, at least in my experience. Technically, I don't believe we're permitted to pay late charges from a legal perspective. So I typically don't, and just wait for them to credit them. I've never had any trouble with PACE. So if that's one of the vendors, we're not, that won't be an issue there. But my rule of thumb is I pay them as soon as I can.
Okay. Yeah, I emailed Kenny about a month or so ago asking for some background on how the process works, and I still haven't heard from him, so I might need to start rattling that cage again.
No, yeah, I don't. It's we have the money. The money is an account where we're authorized to use it. And honestly, I think if they come from me, he's not going to question them.
Okay.
I mean, he sees me my work weekly.
And if Bill's willing to make out the invoices, that's very generous and kind of you to do that.
I agree, and I'd love to sit over your shoulder sometime and have you show me the process of how it works as well.
Yeah, well, so I fill out a piece of paper. I include the vendor name on it, the vendor number. They're all numbered in our system, accounting system, and the account to which it needs to be charged and the amount. And attach a copy of the invoice to the voucher.
Who would be the point of contact in finance as far as what our account number is? When I talked to Steve on the finance committee right after the town meeting, he said that they would be setting up basically a general ledger item number for us, so that we'd have
Yeah, so
our own
Kenny's
account.
responsible for setting up all the accounts in the accounting system. And he sends out a report monthly to people like me, people who do this. And if for example, with this, I would just look at the appropriate expenditure report, find the account and the account number and use that.
Okay.
And if he hasn't set it up already, if he hasn't set it up, what I would probably do is submit one to be charged to the account and remind him that he needs to set it up.
Bill, is there a standard voucher form? Like I see the ones that the library uses. You use the same one?
Essentially, yeah. There's slight variations, but nothing. I mean, they're all basically the so-and-so department submits these bills and wants you to pay them.
Okay. Well, thank you for taking that on, Bill. I certainly appreciate it, and hopefully you can provide me with some good training so that I know what's going on with it.
Well, the first few vouchers I'll just copy the committee on so that you can see what it looks like.
Okay. Do we need to establish is there a dollar limit that we need to establish so that the committee can just take action on it? Or is that something that needs to be brought up at our monthly meetings?
Well, so, I mean, clearly we could as a committee authorize me to pay the bills. If I had any question about a bill that came in, I would consult with the committee by email just to confirm that there wasn't any issue with it. But if you're doing all the ordering, in essence, if you just send me the bills and say, this is a bona fide expense, and I've been authorized to submit them, that's good enough for the process.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to authorize Bill to create and submit vouchers for Lakes and Ponds Committee expenses.
Second.
And we have a motion that's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And committee action. Thank you again, Bill. Appreciate that. Next, and Bill, you had mentioned at Pace. Alpha Analytics was, I guess they were merged or bought out by Pace or something like that. So everything is kind of under the Pace umbrella right now. And they have they changed their format of how they were invoicing. And they had a minimum of a $300 invoice fee. So that if we submitted one sample for chlorophyll A analysis over to their lab, it was going to be a flat $300 fee. I did email them, and they emailed me back and said that they would waive that minimum invoice fee, but even still, it comes out to a little over $200 per sample just for a single chlorophyll sample. And given the schedule of sampling that we're looking at, it would really eat up our budget a lot quicker than we want. We wouldn't have a cushion for next spring if we followed the the schedule for the remainder of the year. So Mike and I have been looking at some other sources that might do it cheaper. I found one place down in Alabama that would do it for $25 a sample. But the problem there is I don't know that we could afford to pay the fees to get the samples there within a 24-hour period. With all the labs that we're dealing with, does anyone know of anything closer that's more affordable than PACE?
Yeah, UNH does chlorophyll for only $15 a sample. And they are about an hour and a half away in Durham. Again, you got the 24-hour hold time. There is a way to, if you process the samples, this is something we can't do, but if you process the samples, you can freeze them and then much longer hold time. But we don't have the laboratory capability of doing that. So I'm willing to, drive the samples up to UNH, and then all you have to do is just write them a check at when you deliver the samples, and they will do the analysis.
So
yeah, go ahead.
I don't mean to cut you off, but since you're pretty much already doing Phoenix down in
Connecticut.
not New Haven, but somewhere down in Connecticut.
Near Hartford.
Hartford, since you're already doing that, I would, and since I'm 99% of the time drawing the samples, I would be more than willing to take the hike up to Durham, New Hampshire to submit the samples. It just it cuts out an extra transfer step, and I think just for the logistics simplicity.
Is it every month? How often do we do chlorophyll?
Right now, I think we've got it down to 4 times a year. I don't have the schedule right in front of me, but I believe it was June, July, October, or September and October, something like that.
And you just drive it up and then they send a report, so you don't have to go back or anything. It's just a one time.
Well, Dave, I am willing to do the New Hampshire run too. I think we shall recognize you do an awful lot with the sampling, I really haven't helped out a whole lot otherwise. So I'm happy to do the driving. Or
what a committee!
We can just go by ear. But the only thing we have to kind of have to figure is if we're collecting from Pratt and say Pratt Pond and Wildwood, that kind of compresses your sampling so that you have to maybe do one sample in the afternoon and the other one the next day in the morning or something like that, and then drive them up so the first sample meets the 24-hour holding time.
Or I can modify the sampling so that, say, in the morning, since I live here on Pratt, I collect the chlorophyll for Pratt, and then the afternoon go over and just collect a chlorophyll. That way they're both same day collection. The logistics of it we can work out online, and you and I can arm wrestle over who's going to drive it up there.
Are you going to drive, if you do it that way, we would drive it up that afternoon or the next morning?
I guess it would depend on the day.
Sounds like you could even get it there that day.
Certainly could. Yeah.
You should get paid for your gas for going back and forth too, into the budget.
Yep.
So, Bill, I haven't done it, but actually, Mike, can you claim mileage?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, so conceivably you could claim mileage. I don't know what the rate is per mile right now.
I think it's 70 cents or something.
Yeah, it might get kind of expensive.
Well, it's a hell of a lot cheaper than the $200 we were going to pay Alpha.
Yeah.
$15 plus mileage is going to be 50 or 60.
Yeah, that would help us a lot in terms of because there's I'd still like us to be able to afford to do some cyanotoxins, and those tests are pretty expensive. At least one test at the beach this August.
No.
So if we could save a little bit on chlorophyll, it would be great. I guess that's it. I mean, we've got the sampling vials. Pace generously sent us a bunch of sampling vials for bottles for chlorophyll, so
Yeah.
we can use theirs. They're in town hall.
And yeah, I think UNH was looking for, because I did some research after you had told me that you had found them, and they want 1,000 milliliter bottles, which is just what Pace sent us.
Yeah. Dark bottles kept
Yep.
cool in the dark.
Yep.
So,
Usually I put them in my beer fridge same day I collect them. Because that's where all of the samples from earlier this year have been living, is in my beer fridge downstairs, which has been pretty good.
anyway,
and-
Dave, just in terms of tasks, spread it around. I am happy to do something like that. I'm not the greatest field support these days. I recognize that.
Yeah, it's any support at all is very welcome. And yeah, we can share. If I plan on collecting, let's say next Thursday, and you're not available Friday to drive, I can always do that. So we can work together on that. So, and between your expertise and Bill's researching ability, it's a lot of support. And last month, Lori came out with me one afternoon when we were sampling Wolver at Wildwood. A very pleasant afternoon in the boat with Ms. Woden, and she.
That's what my students call me, Ms. Woden. I haven't heard that in a long time.
And she learned your annotation in the logbook was just absolutely spot on. She did the record
if
keeping.
you had to stop after every single one of those things and write all that down, I can see that it is at least twice as much time it would take.
Yeah, it is very time consuming, particularly in Wildwood, where there's 5 different sampling spots.
Right.
I've got Pratt down to a science so that it doesn't take as long. It's just a little tedious. Take the reading, stop and write. Take the reading, stop and write. Take the reading, stop and write. So yeah, it's plus, it was just a pleasant afternoon. We talked a lot, and it was just a good. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. I'll be happy to do it again.
Okay. Item number 4 is the stormwater collection points and runoff analysis, and I was hoping to have Sally here with us. That's one of her areas of expertise. So if nobody has any objection, I think I would table this one until next month. All right. And back to your point about sampling over the beach, that was item number 5 on the list, is the cyanobacteria sampling and analysis. The fee schedule for Pace shows that at like $300 a copy. And the Board of Health is already testing for E. coli, I think it is, bacteria in. Besides Diane at the Board of Health, is there anybody that you think we could do some cost sharing on getting those samples analyzed? Because it's more directly for the benefit of the BOH rather than us.
Well, Dave, can I ask a question first?
Certainly.
So what is exactly what parameter does Pace analyze for?
Right now, Pace is analyzing just the chlorophyll A for us.
Okay, but in terms of cyanotoxins,
it was 300, and I don't know exactly.
They do cyanotoxins?
Yes. I'm pretty sure that was Pace, but it was,
I'll check
but
that.
it was 300 for that one
Does-
sample.
But to see,
So what are you suggesting we do?
okay.
Cyanobacteria is what the Board of Health already does, right? Test for?
no, first off, no, they don't do any testing, but they just do bacteria. They're not doing,
Yeah.
they're
Yeah,
not doing
looking-
any cyanobacteria testing unless there's like a surface bloom, and then they might do the sampling. Last year when we did that, when we had that bloom by the beach, the surface bloom by the beach, we sent the sample to Jim Sweet.
So they do bacteria or E. coli?
they're
Yeah.
doing, fecal coliform
Yeah.
bacteria.
So what I'm proposing here is something different. Well, back up a bit, but last year we certainly found that there is a cyanobacteria bloom going on, but it's near the bottom of the pond. It's species mostly called Oscillatoria, which is filamentous and forms mats. So there's this like carpet probably of Oscillatoria on and near the bottom of the pond. And the cyanobacteria like Oscillatoria release toxins into the water. And there's called cyanotoxins, and there's several different kinds of them. To some extent, it depends on the species, but there are human health standards, risk criteria for the concentration of the toxins in the water that people are exposed to. So I'm thinking we don't want to be missing anything, and if you look just at the water, take a sample, of the surface water, we've been finding low levels of cyanobacteria. So people at the beach aren't really exposed to the bacteria themselves. And the question I have in my head is, what about the cyanotoxins? Are they being released from the bottom, and could there be an issue there? So what I suggest is that we just do this once in August. Just take a sample of water right from the beach, and have that analyzed to see if we maybe have a problem.
So do we need to be authorized to do this?
No.
Because I know it wasn't part of what we were thinking. It wasn't in our budget planning, I don't think, right?
Well, I don't think it is, but we could make this complicated and go to Board of Health and ask them to pay for it or split it. Or we could we could do it ourselves if we're going to have this chlorophyll savings. If we're saving the chlorophyll, our budget assumed, I think chlorophyll was like about $125 a sample.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to be saving based on our budget, we're going to be saving about $100 a sample. So, I do recommend we do this. I'm still looking for, Dave, I'm going to check out Pace. I'm still looking for labs who do this. The one I found that is around $700 is a West Coast lab. There might be a lab in Maine, which I'm trying to track down. And I think, I'm going to send Anna from TRC an email asking if they use anybody and who they use.
Good thought.
So we've got some time, this would be like a mid-August sample of that.
Can I ask a quick question about this?
Sure.
So there was an algae bloom a few years ago, sort of more near the boat launch area, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the only second time we had an algae bloom was this one last year. And when they post-tested it, it was not there anymore.
Right. It kind of disappeared. Yeah. Both.
Right, disappeared.
Yeah.
So that right there gives you evidence that there's probably a mat of it down the bottom.
Well, the species that were in those two surface samples, we actually, to some extent, know what they were. I actually just went back and looked at this, found the emails and things, but they didn't find oscillatoria in the.
They did
surface.
not,
Did not. No.
but that's
It
what
was-
I
it
think
was-
you
it was
think it
other-
is.
It was other blue greens, not oscillatoria.
Yeah, we had, I remember there were several, like 3 different species of blue greens that showed up in our sampling last year. And I guess it's the oscillatoria that would be releasing the toxins into the water. And just to clarify in my own head, what we're not looking to see if the bacteria is there, but we're testing the water near the beach, looking for any levels of the toxins that they release in the swimming area.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
And levels of the cyanobacteria in the actual surface waters have been low for the most part when we've collected them and sent them to Jim Sweet. But the place that we found really high levels of especially oscillatoria is right near the bottom.
The 12-foot level. I remember that. Yeah.
And so anyway,
That's how you know it was from the level of where it was in the pond when you tested. Okay.
Yeah, that's how we know it's there. So anyway, I just, like I said, I like to kind of be conservative, to make sure we're not missing anything.
And I'm on board with that. Do you have any idea what Aquatic Analysts charged us last year for that sample that we sent out?
Or
Because I remember
For-
Gary taking a sample and sending it out.
oh, okay. Gary sent one from Lake Wildwood, and I sent one from Kiwanis Beach area. And he does I can't remember exactly how much it is, but it's rather than the full analysis of a sample, which I think now costs $180, I think.
Yeah, that's just standard price for our alkyls.
Yeah, but he charges somewhat less for a quick turnaround that just focuses on cyanobacteria.
Okay.
I don't remember exactly. I think it's maybe around $100, a little bit more. So
Oh,
it's not quite as much as his.
That's not too unreasonable. And in the sampling schedule, there is one in there for looking for those cyanotoxins. Okay. All right, so we'll I agree with the sampling in August. It would be nice to know, because that's going to be probably the warmest time of year, probably when the algae blooms are going to be at their highest. And does anybody have any idea if the state has acceptable levels of those toxins that would be in the water before they shut anything down?
Yeah, there's a standard.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
just like they have standards for the number of cells, basically, of cyanobacteria, and they also have a standard for the cyanotoxins.
Okay. So then if we meet or exceed either of those thresholds, then we could wave the flag to BOH and get them involved. In the meantime, we're just doing this just for the knowledge base.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I like that idea.
So for the minutes, I say the consensus is to collect a sample for cyanotoxin analysis in August. Is that?
That is right.
Yes.
What's the difference between cyanobacteria and cyanotoxins? So bacteria, I know is bacteria, and toxins could be anything else that's in it that's
Well,
gives an
there's-
unfavorable response.
there are a number of different kinds of, well, chemicals, and they're called cyanotoxins, which cyanobacteria excrete
Okay.
either when they die or just as part of their normal life cycle. You know, they can pump these toxins out into the water.
One of the, we don't have it on the thing, but I know that, oh yeah, the other things not reasonably anticipated. I wanted to talk, I have something for that. And I was concerned a little bit about what are the toxins that come out of the weed control stuff that we use. So that could be just as much of an issue, I suppose, for people who are in the water as these could be. So.
How,
Yeah,
how would
I
we
think-
test for something like that? Residue from the weed control chems?
Well, there was there was just a new study that came out about dicot, so that's one of the things that I want to talk about. So there are other things that they use, and I'm hoping to, what my hope is, Bill, is that maybe we can meet with the people that do it and they can tell us exactly what they use, and if there are other things, and maybe we can begin to look at different options. We started to when Derek was here. And then he left and it never got any further. I even think it was discussed when Blythe was here about different options, but now we have this committee, so we could look at it a little bit more closely, hopefully.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree, Laura. I think it's definitely worth.
Yeah, they might
Yeah,
have different choices. Maybe they
looking
have
into.
a lesser amount that they don't have to use so much strength. I don't know what the options will be, but it would be good to look into them, I think.
To make sure that the contractors are minimizing the use, and I don't really know enough about what they're doing to be able to say that they are. So, and also the Concom has permitted these treatments with a notice of intent that was issued a year or two ago. But it is. I think it's a good question. It's a very tough question.
And I'm asked about it sometimes by citizens.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then when I read this recent study, I was like, "Ooh, this is serious." So
if you read about North Pond in Hopkinton or at Maspinock, there's always every year it's a discussion.
Yeah.
And it's Maspinock's a good example. They do, I think, do some chemical treatment. They also do these drawdowns.
They used to. I'm not sure if they still do.
They still do.
They still do.
do.
Yeah. Which, if you think a little deeper about the drawdowns, they probably kill more aquatic life than exposure to the chemicals does. Anything that lives in the sediment gets frozen.
Yeah.
Well, that's the other issue I think about.
So there's no easy answer here. That's what I'm saying.
Right. Well, the drawdown, the issue with the drawdowns lately has been we're not getting the kind of freezes that we used to get.
Mm-hmm.
That's killing them. So it may not be. My understanding is it's not been working as well, the drawdowns, because of that.
I think that's true, and even the literature says it doesn't always work.
Yeah,
do it and see how it works.
Yeah, the drawdowns, and I fish a lot over on North Pond, and the drawdowns are only marginally effective as far as controlling the weed growth. It was not this past summer, but 2 summers ago, they did a real drawdown to just about the lowest level I have ever seen them take Maspinock down. And we had some pretty good freezes, but that summer, the weeds came back with a vengeance. It was almost impossible to get through anywhere on that pond with an electric motor. And the die-offs of mussels and freshwater clams and stuff like that, particularly over by the line tramp, was just horrendous. Just horrendous.
they've had a big committee that worked on this and studied it, and it may be that they have a lot of information that we could benefit from if they would share it.
I used to
There's
live
a guy on the Upton side named Dave Gibbs, who was on that committee for a long time, and I have his information. He worked with us on the gas pipeline issue in 2016.
I used to live right across the pond on Maspinock. I don't remember Frank's last name, but he was on the Lake Maspinock committee, the preservation committee that they have. I'll see if I still have his contact information. Reach out to see if he has any info on that. Okay, shall we move on? Item number 6, Open Space Rec Committee Long-Term Program. Mike, you had mentioned this, and I'm going to throw the ball back to you at our last meeting, and we were going to put it on the agenda for this month. So the floor is yours.
Yeah, well, has something called an open space and recreation plan that was finished in 2020. Open Space Committee took the lead on it. And then it is approved through 2027, but the state is giving us, they're actually changing the length of time that these plans can be approved for to 10 years. And so they're giving people with existing plans a chance to basically extend the life of their plan a few years. And to do that, basically, I think all we need to do is there's a section in the OSRP called the action plan, I believe it's called. And the way Upton's plan is written, it's a big table which lists different activities and then who's responsible for the activities. In that plan, it was Recreation was responsible for some things, Open Space Committee responsible for others, Land Stewardship Committee responsible for some things, Conservation Commission responsible for some things. So that was done in 2020 before there was a Lakes and Ponds Committee. So I think there's an opportunity, and actually some of the action items in that plan were very much unrelated. So anyway, I think there's an opportunity to when we update that table is to basically add Lakes and Ponds Committee to it for the last actually it'll be like the last 5 years. I think it'll go from 26 through 29 or 30, something like that. 30, I think. So so some of the things that we're already doing could be listed in there, like, you know, prepare management plan for Pratt Mill Pond. I mean, do we want to throw in, you think in a couple of years down the road, we'll be ready to do a management plan for Wildwood, you know, maybe throw that in. Educational activities, like, you know, we're doing some of that. Water quality monitoring, which we're doing. Maybe the boat ramp at Wildwood. And we might have some things to implement based on the Pratt and Mill Pond study.
Maybe we can get a new sign made for the rules at Pratt Pond, because don't you think there should be a sign?
Sure. Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that TRC was asking for in their list of things that we were to upload, and that's where Bill found that. And the reason that had to come down was because the sign that I remember, and probably that you remember, Lori, the very first line at the top of it was Upton residents only. And because Pratt is a great pond and it's state owned, we can't restrict it to just Upton residents. Wildwood, not Wildwood, but North Pond or Lake Maspinock, they used to have basically the same sign at their launch ramp. And they had to take that down. Now they can restrict the hours that the ramp is open, but they can't restrict access to the pond just to Hopkinton residents or Upton residents. So that's probably why their sign came down as well. Is there one central controlling authority for this long-term plan, Mike? Is it the rec committee, or is it open spaces, or is it Concom, or is it just kind of a compendium of all the organizations?
Well, the document was written by Open Space Committee. So I guess Open Space, and Open Space would probably, run it by Conservation Commission. And then, we'd also, if Lakes and Ponds wants to be involved, we'd run it by Lakes and Ponds and run it and get input from Lakes and Ponds and input from RecCom. Over the years, getting input from RecCom's probably been the most challenging thing.
Chances are the open space part was mostly land-based, and the only RecCom part was it the pond, Kiwanis Beach? Or was it all the fields and everything? that they
It was
did?
some. I think the Fort Parks master plan was one thing in there. I know we added. We put in. Well, we did. Just to back up a bit, we did this pretty massive survey for the 2020 OSRP. We sent a form to everyone in town, mailed it to everybody, and
Right then.
we got about 900 responses, which took forever to go through. But one of the things that people mentioned was boating access at Wildwood, improving it, and that's, I think that's the reason we have improving the boat ramp at Wildwood, if you can even call what's there a boat ramp.
You experienced the boat ramp when you were there, Lori?
At Wildwood, you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah.
That root filled.
Once they found it.
Yeah, that's the boat ramp.
There's no place on William Street that lets people know that's where Wildwood is.
That's technically a private way, I believe, but there's an easement so that we can access Wildwood Park.
But to have a town park like that there's no signage for until you're in it, I think that's a little bit of a problem. And it actually was brought up by somebody at the West Up Division Committee about how we, our greatest tourist attraction is our open space in this town and our parks. And there is good signage for many of them, because almost all of them have a kiosk at the beginning or something, but that's one that really doesn't.
You're absolutely right about that. I drove by it several times.
I went down the one where the machine shop was, thinking, oh, I've been here before. I've done this. I know what to do. And I could not find the thing. And then Dave just happened to mention 3 mailboxes. And I went, maybe that's what he's talking about. I went down there. And once I got down there a ways, it looked like I remembered.
Yes, I sent very specific instructions to the firm that did this year's treatments. Because I thought they'd have the same problem I was, because you have no idea. It looks like somebody's driveway.
Unless you know that you have to turn in at between 25 and 29 William Street, you're going to drive right by it.
Yeah.
Mike, is there somewhere on the website, on the town website, either Open Space or RecCom or whoever, where that document from 2020 might reside?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can send you a link to the existing document, and then I started to create an updated spreadsheet, basically, and I can send that too.
Okay.
I'd like to, and then we just one thing, but we do need to get this. I think we should wrap this up next month. The deadline to submit it to the state is the end of September, but I'd like to get it into the state early September, just in case they have problems with what we submit.
In terms of these signs, we might be heading into a warrant article, maybe, if we wanted to make some signs, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I don't know what we'd have to maybe read that easement, say if the easement allows you to put any signs up on that road or not. I remember I've been going through all the town reports, and I ran into town meeting vote where they accepted that easement back in the 70s, I think, something like that. Early 80s. Lake Wildwood Park was the very first conservation area in town, 1965.
Yeah, if you can find that that document and forward it to me, and I don't have an issue with lakes and ponds getting involved in updating that. Matter of fact, if it's in conjunction with like the Four Parks master plan or something like that, or just just improving things for the town. Yeah, I can see putting our 2 cents in.
Yeah, the plans, I got a link to it on the open space page.
Thanks, Bill.
So I'd say for the minutes, the consensus is the Lakes, Ponds, and Streams Committee should be included in the revised OSRP table.
That is correct.
Okay.
No objection here. Okay, and you said that you want to put that you want to have that settled by mid-August or end of August?
By August would be great.
Okay.
It should be definitely on the agenda for our August meeting then.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And we need to get to the RecCom. Bill, do you want to try to get on their agenda? I would go with you, and maybe we also talk to them about maybe the church property or what, whatever else.
Okay. All right, moving on to, actually, we're ahead of schedule, but we're actually not much anymore. The item number 7, the Nipmuc Regional High School students. One of them would like to do an internship with the committee for the next school year. And I haven't talked to Lisa Michael, who's the science teacher over there, since school let out. I thought I would give her a quick break, but we still got to get some groundwork done, some baseline, because I really don't know what their requirements are for the internships for their students. I know that she's looking to have them actively engaged, and finding things for them to do. Yeah, they can assist with doing the sampling, they can attend our meetings, they can do the data analysis from the sampling, but I don't know what else they could do. But it sounds like we have some interesting long-term stuff that's going to be coming up that they could also be involved with. What I want to ask the committee is, do we want to formally look at collaborating with Nipmuc Regional with their AP Science students and continue on with what we're doing and hosting an intern? Do we have enough work for them?
I think that would be a question for the instructor. I think the list you just talked about is what we have to offer, by and large. So I would talk to her and see if that satisfies what they think an internship should do.
And the other
We might-
thing, so it's two different things you're talking about. I'm sorry, Bill, you took a break there and I thought you were done. Sounds like you're not.
Go ahead, go ahead.
So there's two things there. There's the AP Science kids, and then there's this intern. So yeah, I think you'll need to find out what they need an intern to, how much of a commitment and what that means. But the other thing with the AP Science class, if they're going to send three people out for a 45-minute class, I don't really see much value in that, to tell you the truth. What I think they should be able to do is she should be able to send more kids out and call it a half-a-day field trip and just do it 3 or 4 times and fit all the kids in that. So you've got a bigger group of kids, but for a longer period of time, or maybe you have 3 kids, but you have a longer period of time, you could do more with them. Because for them to spend 15 minutes going, 5 minutes going out, 5 minutes coming back, and 5 minutes doing a drop, I don't see any real value in that. But I think she can set that up as a partial field trip like that.
Yeah.
And you need to be Corey and everything like that.
Yeah, the intern would be one of the AP Science students.
Right.
The 3 kids that I had out with me back in June, they were juniors, moving into their senior year. And this internship is, part of their AP requirements. She has like 21 kids coming in the pipeline for this coming year, which logistically, starting in September, weather-wise, September and October, about the only 2 months that we would really be able to host them doing anything as far as actual field work. So yeah, there's a lot of unknowns to collaborating with them further.
And Dave, I'm going to say that I think all of that collaboration is going to fall upon you. So you got to be up for it as well.
Oh yeah, not having to get up and do the 9 to 5 anymore is a great thing, and yeah, so and I really do enjoy getting out and doing the sampling.
I don't mind helping. Like, for instance, if they set a larger group and you're going to only take one in a boat and you need somebody with kids on the shore, I could do that and we can come up with some activity probably for them. But I think she needs to be able to figure out a way to give a little bit more time to it. Not for the interns, but for the regular students.
For the entire AP Science class, yes.
Right.
Yep, I agree with that.
And there's shoreline surveys. There's things they could be doing in the meantime.
They actually did.
Value.
They did some shoreline sampling. I know that they were taking temperature and DO readings, possibly some nitrogen sampling. Right now, their nitrogen sampling, I don't think it gives us the scientific base that, with some of the other sampling that we're looking at, like total nitrogen. Theirs is done with a litmus paper type of sample. So I don't know how much usable data there is on that.
Now, Mike, you've had interns before. Is there a criteria of how many hours they need to spend? You've just had an intern with Concom, right?
Well, it's for the first year we've had one, and he's a paid intern. I think
this is different, yeah.
The target is like 19 hours a week. I'm not sure if he's been able to keep him that busy yet, but it just started a week or two
This
ago.
might go along with their this Career Pathways environmental grant. And so there might be some established criteria, but you're right to find that out.
You mentioned grants, and that just twigged my memory banks. In our mission statement, one of the things that we're supposed to be doing is applying for grants, for water quality studies and things along those lines. Does anybody off the top of their head know of aside from like MWRA or something like that, or the Suasco watershed. I don't know if the Blackstone River has a watershed association that does grants or anything like that for water quality studies. Anybody know of anything like that?
Well, isn't our TRC thing a grant?
Yes, but I'm looking for grant money coming in for the committee as opposed to going out to a third entity.
Yeah, Dave, you know that you get the Blackstone Collaborative email, right?
Yes.
There's usually a list of funding opportunities in there. So I think that would be a good place to check out every month when that email document shows up.
That's a good one. And I know, Bill, I think at one point you said that part of Northeast Upton is in the Suasco watershed.
Yep.
Okay. So I'll see if they have any interest in this little, it's almost part of the headwaters of the Sudbury. So I imagine there might be some interest there. So I will look into those and I will report back.
They
And-
also, in terms of working with the high school kids, you've been working with Lisa Michael, but that was before that they got this career pathway. What is it called? Career Innovation Career Pathway, something for the environment. And that person who's ahead of that is Tara Bennett. So I don't know if she said she was gonna talk with Sustainable Upton. But if it gets to anything related to lakes and ponds and streams, I'll send her over here.
Okay. Yeah, that would be good. That would be good.
Lori, who's that again? Tyler?
The name of the person?
Yeah.
Tara Bennett.
Who is she though?
Oh, she is,
I missed what you said. Did you say Sustainable Upton? Is that?
I said Sustainable Upton, but she is a teacher at the high school.
Mhm.
And she is one of the lead teachers in the science department. I think she's the head of maybe all the career pathways grants, but certainly this one on the environment. Probably not all of them because she's a science teacher and some of them are not science related. These are the grants that the comprehensive high schools got to try to have innovative programs to keep the top kids from going to tech schools because they were all losing all these kids to the technical schools. So that this is our fifth one. The environment one is the fifth one that we have.
Was that who sponsored the symposium earlier this year? The basically
It's
the earth
no.
sciences? No?
No, it's since then.
Hmm.
I think they've been doing that for a while, that engineering science symposium. This Jim Gorman is a real mover and shaker in the state in terms of science. He's doing amazing things. And he's the head of the science department, and he's that mass STEM science teacher of the year for the whole state.
Ooh. He might have some input as well.
I'm sure he would.
Okay. All right. Last item on our agenda. We have 2 open committee spaces. I got an email from Gary early in June or maybe late May that he was not going to be continuing on with the committee. I guess he's pretty wrapped up with his chaplaincy with the police and fire departments, and I certainly wish him all the best. That probably keeps him busy, and that seems to be his calling. I don't know if anybody was at the Memorial Day parade, but he was there in his full dress uniform with the fire department. But we have 2 empty seats now with Gary no longer on the committee. And I will put it out there with you, if anybody knows anybody who has half an interest of joining the committee, please invite them to submit an application so we can try and fill our seats.
I have to, I'm going to post it on the Sustainable Upton Facebook page. I just have to figure out exactly what to say.
The verbiage? Okay. Well, you could,
I
and it, go ahead, Bill, sorry.
was going to say it's also conceivably a position we could offer to the intern.
Mhm.
Oh, what a great idea. That would give some hours
Yep.
and a lot of experience. I think a
Yeah.
lot, that's a really excellent idea.
And a voice.
Yes. Wow. That's a really great idea.
I like it. I like it. Okay, so we are actually a little ahead of our allotted time, and Lori, you had mentioned wanting to talk about the weed control applications, which I think we've covered pretty well. Does anybody else have any other items that did not make it on the agenda for this month?
Yeah. What about the stuff that we need for TRC, Mike? You wanted everything to you, I thought, by July 15th about.
Well, yeah, that's the goal. I mean, there's a lot of stuff posted, not too many of the write-ups. So I'm not sure who's responsible for all. I'm responsible for several of the write-ups. It's kind of the
I
next
wrote to
thing I gotta start-
Diane and she wrote back and said, I don't have too much of that information, but she's going to get me some of it. And she sent over to RecCom to see if they had anything like that where there's some sort of a recreation right narrative that needs to be done.
Right.
So I
Yeah.
wrote to say, was there anything already that we could work off of?
Mm.
And
Yeah,
I'm
you
not
might-
entirely sure what you need because I'm sure every year in the town report, the Recreation Commission has a narrative, and I'm sure it
Mm.
mentions some of the ponds.
Yeah.
So is that
Well,
where I
maybe-
should be looking?
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea. Yeah. Maybe start there, and if you have questions, maybe try to get a hold of the rec director. Right.
Right, but you want to go back quite a ways, and she hasn't been
Well,
there.
Well, yeah, that's I think the most important thing is for rec is what this program is now. I am going back through all the old town annual reports, and finding some interesting stuff that I think I could throw into like a paragraph history of when, like Bill mentioned, when the town purchased the land for Kiwanis Beach, when they had their first lifeguard, is things I found. The Kiwanis Beach, all those fields were they got a federal grant to do all that work, and they had I think it was in the early '80s. They had a dedication ceremony for it. So I've got stuff like that I found that I can kind of write up. But it'd be great to know what you have a good summary of what's going on right now.
Yeah. Gary authored an article to submit to the Mendon Upton newspaper that I don't think was ever published in there. I'll see if I can find that copy, what he submitted, and I'll send that to you so maybe you can get some useful information out of that as well.
Mm-hmm. And we have I just noticed we have the water quality bacteria sampling results from 22 and 23, but I don't know, Lori, if could you bug Diane for 24?
Okay,
So
so you've got 22 and 23, and you want 24, and
Yeah,
I thought you wanted as far back as she could go. And then
Yeah.
also you wanted beach closers. She said that she can get what she can get, but then there's stuff in storage, and I offered to go through that if she wants me to. but I didn't hear
maybe
back after that.
just qualitatively. I mean, I don't, if there's been any bacterial beach closures in the last, 5 or 10 years that anybody remembers.
Yeah, there was one the first year that Dennis came on. The beach was closed at the end of the year, and then they thought that's when the beach closed. And then the next year it closed really early because of that. So that was a miscommunication kind of a thing. So I guess that's a while now.
Yeah, that'd be good. I don't remember there being anything recently except for that one. I don't even know. Did they close the beach last year because of the cyanobacteria?
Yep.
They did. So there's that one.
Yep. And those poor kids was sweltering, but what are you gonna? You have to do it.
Yeah.
In terms of the other thing, Bill, would you mind sitting with me and the people who do a weed control and getting a better sense of what they do and what other options there might be, and just have a discussion?
I can ask them if they're willing to do that. I'm waiting for them to provide me with the report for the treatments from this year.
The what's from this year?
But the treatments from this year, I'm waiting for them to report on those. That's one thing they promised us. I expect that any day now.
Okay.
And I have some reports from the last 4 years that Water and Wetlands did the work. So I can tell you what was treated and what they used to treat. And actually, I found out, I was going through the annual town reports myself, and the Aquatic Weed Control Committee for many years actually gave pretty detailed summaries of what they did and what they used, or what was used. They didn't do it.
Do you know if those reports give a breakdown of application rates, like?
No, nothing like that.
They're not that detailed.
Okay.
Bill, I'd like to see whatever you found in terms of the consultant reports. I think I've got several of them, which I've loaded up for TRC, but I don't think I have 4 years worth. So
I'd like to see them too, just in terms of developing a little bit of background, so we can have something to, if we do get to meet with them and they explain it to us, we'll have some understanding.
So we're doing business with a new firm this year.
Oh.
And,
why?
Pardon me?
Do you know why?
Yes, because the cost of the treatments is over $10,000, we have to solicit quotes. And they came in at a number which was almost 2/3 of what Water and Wetlands came in.
Now, Water and Wetlands was made up of somebody who had done this work for our town already, and then they made their own company, right?
Yep. And then they were acquired recently by a Cincinnati company, and that, but in any case, but they're headquartered on South Street.
Oh
no, actually they've moved. They actually have an office now in Medway or something. But I really enjoyed working with them. I was disappointed when the other firm came in, but I mean.
So it's not these people that would be sitting down, it would be these new people, and that's why you don't know, because we don't know them very well.
Well, yeah, and we pay them for their time, and they may be more than happy to do it, or they may say, sure, you just have to spend, a couple $100 an hour, which, because they came in at such a low level, I might have.
Maybe do. Yeah.
No, actually, I don't, because I'm in a new fiscal year.
And they could tell us, even though they're not in the reports, we could, whether it's a meeting or not, they could probably tell us the application rates, but I don't know how we would compare it to. I don't know how you compare it to it in the past if we don't have it from the past.
Yeah, well, my guess is they're fairly well standardized. I mean, the dicot itself, all those things are controlled, and these people they're all licensed.
Right, and I know that Hopkinton was using something with paraquat, and we're using dicot, so it sounds to me like it's many versus two. So I'm not sure, except I know those terms, but we'll have to begin to learn a little bit more about it. And I'm sure there are options. I imagine there are options, so at least we can look into it and see what we can find out. And I will send you those articles. I looked in it on Google Scholar because I wanted to make sure that we were getting legit kinds of things. And there's some interesting things you'll be interested, I think, to look at. So I'll grab those and send them to you also.
Yeah, if you could share those with us, that would be great.
Yeah, okay. We have a lot of action items.
Well, we're starting to get
Good.
busy.
Yeah.
We're starting to get busy.
I'll send everybody a link to the Google Drive, where a whole bunch of information has been uploaded. Let me know if that works for you or not when you get it.
So what you saying, you Mike, you have the beach closed for 2002 and 2003, but not 2004? Or are you saying you have the,
2024.
yeah, but not, it's the beach closures, not the
No, it's the
bacteria counts?
No, I've got the bacterial data for 22 and 23.
Okay. So you like them for 24 and you like
Yeah.
anything we can get before 22?
Yeah, that's easy for them to do.
Okay,
I want to put
thank
too
you.
much
Great,
on Diane. So,
okay.
but
Okay. Anybody else have any other hot button items?
Just let me know when you're gonna go out on the boat and if you need me to go.
Okay, I haven't picked when yet, and hopefully Mother Nature will cooperate and it won't be 900 degrees. And
raining, we have a lot of
and-
rain this week.
well, I usually try and schedule it, somewhere in the middle of the month. So we will, which is coming up next weekend. So we'll play it by ear.
Unless,
I will let you
if
know.
either of you want to do it, feel free to say so, that's okay. Okay,
And I'll
Yep.
send out an email to the group when I'm planning on going out, and if anybody's available, just let me know.
well, there's so much in the media lately about the good that being in nature does for people, just all that green around you, and just sitting in that boat for 2 hours, I was as mellow as a person can be.
You seem to be having a good time.
I said, this is what they're talking about.
All right, so if we don't have any other items to discuss, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second,
A motion that's been seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
hi.
Aye. And committee action, and at 2020, have a good night, everyone.